Welcome to another high value conversation. And today the energy is high, the vibrations are good because I have my great friend, artist, musician, teacher, inspirational figure, Asante Amin, coming on today. And I'm just excited because I know that the benefit, the high vibrations, the good energy comes so much from this guy. And I'm just ready to talk to him, ask him some great questions about how music influences his life, how he uses it to inspire others, the way it has helped him inspire youth, teach people, get them into music, but even also the things that he shares on his social media about a cleaner lifestyle or just being able to find your pathway to inner freedom. And I'm just ready to be able to bring him to you. So I'm going to go ahead and invite him in. All right. So as we get ready to come on, I just want to say that I met him a long time ago when we were younger, and just watching him live and watching the things that he's accomplished over his life really inspired me to want to bring him in and have a conversation, high value conversation with you, so that you can get some of the benefits of what I have experienced through my relationship with him. Just listening to his music, it's so, how can I say, inspired, because I can tell that he really appreciates his craft. I can tell he really takes um, music seriously. Even the fact that he plays multiple instruments, right? I want to find out the ones that I don't know about, but I for sure know about the flute. I definitely know about the saxophone. And I used to play saxophone with him. You know, he showed me a couple things that I didn't know about playing saxophone when we were younger. So it's just a really great conversation that's going to take place. Waiting for him to be able to log in right now. Let's see. Okay. Resend this invite. All right. There we go. Yeah. All right. Asante, brother, good morning.
Good morning, good morning. What you say, man? How are you?
I'm excited to be on with you this morning.
Absolutely, man. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. When you extended the invitation to come on your platform, you know what I'm saying? I jumped at the opportunity. So thank you for having me.
Man, no, I was just letting everybody know in the preview that the vibration is gonna be high, the energy is gonna be good. That's you, man. You know, I see you got the greenery in the
Of
back, man.
course.
You just bring such a I just said it's like an inspirational energy just from the way that you exist, man. I'm just ready to bring that like to others. And I'm just excited to be on here with you, man.
Exactly. I mean, let's hop into it. It's many places we could begin. So I'm gonna let you take it away.
All right, cool. So where I want to start with, because I know we're talking about, you know, finding our pathways to freedom and being able to use some of the things that are in our lives to get us there. I want to ask you though, how did your skills develop like early in your life in your musicianship
hmm
translate into your entrepreneurial skills and your life skills?
Yeah, that's a really beautiful and great question. I think with any pathway of discipline, they're transferable skills. What you learn in one place, you can apply to another if you're really a reflective, diligent person. And so, some really basic things. One, I'm from the amazing, beautiful, musical mecca known as New Orleans. So you have no choice but to interface with art and music no matter who you are. And that's one thing I love about the city. And that's one thing I encourage even in my professional life, my educational life. I always tell students or people I'm working with, whether it's I'm doing, seminars or workshops with corporate entities or I'm working with kids, you don't necessarily got to grow up and become a musician. You don't necessarily got to grow up and write a song or paint, but I believe in approaching whatever you do with an artistic aesthetic. Meaning, even if you're an entrepreneur, even if you're a garbage man, even if you're the president of a corporation, you should approach what you do creatively. You should innovate. You should always realize that potential to create and do something new is infinite, as opposed to just a confined linear perspective. So I think quite simply, just like to go back to your question, the discipline, the rigor, and the focus, the experimentation, being okay with not being great out the gate, and right, and
Ooh.
and being cool with failing, but like I don't know, man. A musician just taught me to be a beast. It taught me to be a dog. And what I, and what I mean by that is like, bro, when you're playing an instrument, as you know, uh, you're not gonna be good in a day. You're not gonna be good in a
No,
week. You're not gonna be good in a month. You're not even gonna be good in a year.
facts.
But you have to commit yourself to personal development, and it has to be more about doing the reps, doing the rigor, than necessarily a destination. And then one day you look up and you like, oh, I'm nice. When did this happen? Right? So I think it's the same thing in an entrepreneurial journey where you have to be committed to just like planting the seed, cultivating the seed, watering the seed, and working on the conditions and not being so pressed to make a piece of fruit grow. And then
Mm,
one day you look up,
mm.
you know, if you were on right guidance and you had good mentors around you and you were diligent, one day you look up and you're like, damn, I'm eating the orange now.
Yeah,
Like I did it.
yeah.
And then you learn how to cultivate better oranges and better, right? So I think that's like one simple lesson I got from music that to me not only translates to entrepreneurship, but it translates to relationship. There's so many different facets of life that that lesson translates into.
I love how you put that, man, because both of the examples that you use really hit home for me. Because I remember I read this book called Seven Habits of Highly Effective People
Mm,
when I was younger by Stephen Covey, and
mm,
his key to success was there are no shortcuts, right?
it
There are
is.
no
That's true.
shortcuts. And so when you bring up learning an instrument, which was an example he used, and you talk about like pretty much growing a plant or a fruit, these two examples he said in both of these processes, there are no
Mm,
shortcuts. If you want to play an instrument, if you want to be a level 5 piano player and you're currently at a level 1, the only thing you can do is work to level 2.
I like
You know
that.
what I mean?
Right.
And then when it comes to, like you said, growing a fruit, there's nothing you can do. You plant the seed and you must water. Even if you dig it up and try to see how it's doing, you're gonna kill it.
You mess it up.
You gotta keep watering.
Yeah,
So I like how you
exactly.
said that. I like how you put it, the process. And you're right. Both of us, being introduced to music early and having to go through that practice, those repetitions, taught us this is where you are, and the only way to get where you want to go is to step right after where you are. And you got to
Yes.
be committed.
You got you there is no development, there's no success, there's no manifestation without commitment.
Yeah.
At some point, if you want to shift the needle, you have to put it on the line, whether that's your time, your resources, or your fear, and you just have to be committed. And it seems scary at first, but you get results, right? So I think I became comfortable with living in that uncomfortability,
Hmm.
knowing that this is a part of the process of rendering a
Do you
result.
feel like the first time you felt the discomfort dissipate after you had put in work, that you were like, oh, so this is how this works? Cool. All right, for sure. I'm comfortable with struggle from now on.
Nah, I don't think so. that's that's that's. I mean, if it were that simple, it would be that simple. I will say this though. You familiarize yourself with an arc of manifestation.
Mm,
In other words, when you experience those feelings, you can quickly have an inner conversation with yourself about this is what we're supposed to feel at this exact moment. It's
mm,
not that it necessarily goes away. I always tell people, even before I hit, as much as I perform, before I hit a stage, I still get butterflies. I still get
wow.
a little
Yeah.
nervous, but that's a good thing. It
Uh,
means you're still excited about what you
yeah.
are doing, even though you've done it a million times. You know in your heart there is potential and possibility to do something you've never done before,
Uh,
which gets you kind of
yeah.
uncomfortable, but it's an amazing feeling. So you just got to walk through those feelings boldly, but they never quite go away. You just
Yeah.
understand how to maneuver around them and transmute them.
I read in this book by Maxwell Maltz is Psycho-Cybernetics, talking about like
Mm,
the inner journey and self-image. He says, when you get butterflies, don't try and make them go away. Just try and make them fly in the same direction.
mm. I love that. I love that. Exactly.
So let me ask you this. How can a person discover their inner pathway to freedom?
Oh, wow. Is that one of the questions you sent to me? Cause that's like PhD level. But how can a person discover their inner pathways to freedom? That's a great question, and I think that is something as a human on earth you're constantly unwrapping and unfolding. I don't think there's one answer, and I think it has to do with purpose, right? And to go back to even the analogy you used about if you're a level one piano player and you want to be a level five, you can't concern yourself with level five. You have to just be focused on level two. So, in terms of personal freedoms and understanding your purpose, I think one has to approach it in a double tiered way, and or at least this is the way I think about it. I think about it in terms of what is the immediate needle I want to shift in my environment.
Yeah.
Could be as simple as I want to, I'm gonna wake up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pray, meditate, go to the gym, make my
Yeah.
bed, make some breakfast, and then send out 50 emails for the day, and then I'm gonna practice for 3 hours.
Yeah.
If I did that, I'm on my way,
Yeah.
right? And then on a long enough time frame, I'm thinking, well, damn, I want to shift the consciousness of my community. I want to give my community institutions that liberate them and give them freedom, right? And I think it's about looking at what you do on the daily and then what you want to do in the macro, and are you taking consistent action to make those things meet? But I think it begins, it begins with getting clarity. For me, I'm real big on get off the devices. We own a device now, and it's important to kind of communicate, you dig, and put our messages out there and learn. And this is the age in which we live, but I'm real big on cutting the devices off, cutting the computer off, cutting the disturbances off, and having quiet time to hear yourself, to get in tune with yourself, and to be in nature, and to hear the voice of God. And so without necessarily outlining just very specific like habits or activities, you have to cut the noise down. You have to quiet the, because we live in a very noisy world, bro. There's so many opinions, so many gurus, so many think tanks. It's always news. I'm a big proponent of when you wake up in the morning, don't check the news. Don't grab your phone. It's hard. I'm not saying I always do it, but like tune into yourself, tune into your inner voice, and then from there, some semblance of peace and direction can come.
So let me ask you this: when did you first discover your inner voice, your
Um,
calling?
um, inner voice. I don't know. That's an interesting question because I feel like I feel like to be human is extraordinarily super. Some people are like, oh, so some philosophies, even religions, teach that humans are weak, they're sinful, they don't have any right guidance. I look at what God is creating. I'm like, yo, the human being has the capacity and the potential to be extraordinarily super if tapped in. So I say that to say I feel like all humans come to this planet with superpowers, right? And unfortunately, it's the institutions of men that kind of promote the dumbing down or the repression or the oppression of your innate divine gifts. And then you out here like, man, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I need guidance. I need help. I'm lost. I need external affirmation and confirmation. So I say all that to say, like, there absolutely was an awakening that happened for me in my adolescence, but also, honestly, bro, from a very young age, because of my mission, what I have to do on this planet, and to be quite honest, just like some trauma I experienced very early on. I've always had a very strong inward dialogue that was the compass for the decisions I would make, and I feel like I've always had a strong relationship with people call it God, the higher power, the divine, like the God within, whatever your ancestors, whatever people want to call it. I feel like that's always been really strong in my life, and I have to credit that. Kind of help me be just navigate life.
Love it. I love it. I love it, man. You said a lot there that I really like am in tune
Mm-hmm.
with, man. Especially about like the superpowers and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big fan of the mind, man.
Mm.
You know, of our consciousness and our ability to have deliberate thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Like I call this like deliberate action thoughts. I call it the most powerful thing on earth because really no one can stop a human being, like, unless you chain down or something, from taking a deliberate action. But a
Mm.
lot of times we're very reactive, so we don't really tap into the power of our ability to do things, our deliberate action thoughts. And
Mm-hmm.
then I also talk to people, I give an example sometimes when I'm trying to help somebody like open their mind. I'll say, close your eyes. And then I'll say, like, imagine your room when you were young. And, like, look, see your dresser, see your bedroom, right? And I'll say, now open your eyes.
Mm.
Yeah, we're right here. But
Mm-hmm.
your imagination, your imaging ability,
Mm-hmm.
right, lets you see things as if they are right here, things that you want in the future, things that you can remember, right? And you feel them just as if you were there. That's a superpower to
Mm-hmm.
me. And then the last one I use is I say, all right, now think about your address when you were young, but don't tell it to me.
Mm.
And then I say, can't you see how amazing it is
Mm-hmm.
that you can hear yourself like you're talking, and I can't hear anything you're saying? Like the volume in your head is just as loud
Mm-hmm.
to you as when we're speaking. Those are superpowers to me. I agree
Exactly.
with you.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think uh, it's gonna be. I think those who will be highly successful and have the ability to shift groups of people, shift thought, are those who can turn down the volume outside
Yes,
and
sir.
turn up the volume in their minds and in their spirits. And that is a necessary skill we must continue to
Yeah.
teach and help people cultivate in order to never mind being successful. I think remain and tapped in with their humanity. You know.
Agree. I think that tap in is where well being comes from. Because like you
Mm.
said, you try to we do so much externalizing that when you start to read, educate yourself, listen to audiobooks, and don't be afraid to listen to multiple sources. I think sometimes because we don't have the inner stability of self already established, it's scary to go read this or read that or listen to this or listen to that because you don't know how to come back. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But I think once you're able to have like a center, you can read a variety of things, take what you want, leave what you don't want, listen to a variety of things, keep
Mm-hmm.
what you want, don't. You know what I mean? And self-construct
Yes.
the personality and the mentality that you want. And that's what I love helping people do. It was a beautiful journey doing it for myself, and I'm always on it. Like you said, it's a constant path to keep meeting people, having conversations, absorbing knowledge, and building the me that I'm constructing.
Building the me. And see, bro, to me, like we can use very contemporary parlances and terms to explain this phenomenon, but I think this is a perfect segue into a company I co-founded, which is called Soul Science Lab.
Mm.
And Soul Science Lab is a decade old. I established it with my partner, Chin Lo, in 2013. And Soul Science Lab is all about what you just described, being able to facilitate through art, curriculum, and large scale theatrical programming, the understanding that we construct our lives.
Oh my
We're,
gosh.
we're builders of our lives. And this, I often say it is the job of the educator and the artist to keep relevant the ancient truths
Mm.
and articulate them in a way that is palatable and understandable to contemporary minds. So Soul Science Lab, we've gotten commissions. We're presently working on a commission right now from the Apollo Theater. We're
Wow.
writing my first ever musical that will premiere at the Apollo Theater in February 2024. And it's called the Renaissance Mixtape. And it's basically a centennial historical retrospective about the Harlem Renaissance, right? And so we're telling this story, but we're not doing it in a documentary,
Yeah.
chronological
Wow.
format. We're breathing life into it in ways that our people right now in 2023 can say, I can relate to this. So
Wow.
that is my job.
I
It's my
love it.
job to study our people, ancient Africa,
I love
ancient
it.
Egypt, indigenous thought, and to update the terminologies and the sauce around it so that our people and people in general can get these truths and be impacted by it. Because when you talk about, being intentional, being deliberate with creation, the science of the mind, these are all things, again, previous civilizations. These are all things you had before we were disrupted,
Yeah.
right? And in this present epoch of paradigm in which we live. And so, you know, to that point, a philosophy I have and hold, and I didn't have it by name when we were in school 20 years ago, but there's this African concept called Sankofa. And Sankofa basically it's a Ghanaian term. It's an Akan word from West Africa, and it basically means you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. And it's not shameful to go back and get it.
Yeah.
Whatever that going back is
Yeah.
that you may have lost along the way. It may be your superpower. It may be your sense of self. It may be your self of love. But it is advantageous and beneficial to go back and get that thing you lost in order to successfully move forward. And I feel like without you even saying it, this is what you've been describing, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's I always know this, and I already know this because you're my brother, but it's just alignment.
Yes, sir. And I love how, first of all, congratulations on everything you're doing, man. Like that's what I'm like. Like you said, man,
Thank you.
We went to school together 20 years ago,
Yeah,
and
bro.
in a minute we're gonna dive into how grateful I am for you in my life because you were my upperclassman, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to first acknowledge everything you just said and give you such a credit because, man, you were on that when we were younger. It has developed into such an ability to articulate it with such great delineation and like you said, be able to put the sauce around it because you understand the concept so well now that you can bring it back and explain it in a simpler way, and then take a person on that journey with you to where you can help them reach their highest point. And that's why I wanted to have you on. But I also want to acknowledge the fact that you've wrapped it in the universal language of music and brought it to the youth to kind of spark, you know what I mean? Like you're
Absolutely,
saying,
bro.
you know? And I want to use that to ask you, like, when did you discover music? Like, when did music, I know we grew up in New Orleans and it was all around us,
Yeah.
but when did music become personal to you? When did you engage with music and say, I want to make it too?
Yeah. Um, that's a great question, bro. But I think it goes back to curiosity, wonder, and fascination. And there's a moment that always comes to mind when I was really young. I had to maybe have been 4 or 5 years old, and I was driving with my father. We were on a long trip. We may have been coming back from my grandfather's house, who lives in Mississippi. And my father played an album for me called The Secret Life of Plants by Stevie Wonder. If you all have never heard it, you should go check it out. Funny enough, it's one of his least popular albums, but it's one of my favorites for what it represents. But it's a song from the perspective of plants. It's basically a musical written from the perspective of ecological life. And there was just a song, and I remember like there was music, but there was sounds of nature. And as a young person, this just blew my mind away because I asked my pops, I was like, yo, I was like, how did he put nature in the music? I was like, how did
Yeah,
he
for
put the
sure.
wind and I always credit that as the moment that kind of sparked my fascination with sound. And I think the next thing was uh, I wanted to be a songwriter. I was always fascinated with music, but by the time I got to St. Augustine's High School in New Orleans, one of my biggest dreams in life, you know, I have different dreams now, but one of my biggest dreams when I was a 13-year-old young man was to join the St. Augustine Marching 100. Like, I just knew, I just thought if I could join that band and be accepted, my life would be complete. And and every and just, you know, it would make everything, all my problems go away. And so joining the band and picking up that saxophone for me was, it was my way to directly converse with the mind of God, right? And so I grew up like we all did, experiencing dysfunction, trauma, abuse, and for a long time I was like, what is the entry point to greatness? What is my salvation? And so when I picked up that instrument, it was something that I could develop on my own. It was something I could take the initiative to be great in. It was something that gave me pride. And the amazing thing about music is you could bring your challenges and adversities to music, and then you can write a song, or you could express yourself, and through that expression, a feeling of peace and tranquility, a feeling of a solution comes over you, and then you could take that feeling you feel and then translate that into real life application. And when I found that as a young person, I didn't know where I would end up. I didn't know how it manifests, but I said, this is it. I'm doubling, I'm doubling and I'm quadrupling down on this. And so it was never about the money for me. It was never even about the business, but I thank God I've always been a hustler too. And I understand the importance of just being legitimate, creating infrastructure. So naturally, I never wanted to work for anybody else, ever. Like, I don't like taking, and you notice about me. I don't like, it's just authority, which after going to therapy, it's like there's trauma in that too, but it's also a legitimate striving to
Yeah.
wanting to be free, wanting to
For
dictate my
sure.
own destiny. And so music is that thing that gives me agency
Yep.
to speak in a way that people can hear and people can understand. And it's been my greatest teacher. Not
Man.
necessarily performing, not
Mm.
necessarily like being in an entertainment business, but being a student of music, being a student of the
Yeah.
rigors. It's been my greatest educator and my
Yeah.
greatest salvation.
Man. Oh God. I'm telling you, man, because this is what's been happening with me, with you, since I met you. Like, you just sparked so much good stuff. Because just now,
Praise God.
I didn't even realize I felt like this because you saying it. But what came to mind was music incorporates so many of the great things about being human. Like you're talking
Mm,
about
mm-hmm,
superpowers. If you think about it, because the thought came to my mind. It started with breath, right? You know,
mm,
they say breath is life, right?
mm-hmm,
So for us playing woodwinds, us playing saxophones, first we're breathing,
mm-hmm,
right? So we already got the meditation part of the breathing going. Then you got to use your mind. You got to have memory to remember how to even play the instrument and know what the keys are.
mm-hmm,
Then you have the deliberate action thought, press the keys in the right timing. So I'm pressing them, I'm remembering them, I'm breathing, and then I'm cooperating. I'm
hmm.
cooperating with the instrument to create what I'm creating. And then I'm making a joyful noise, or I'm making
Come,
and
come
making,
on now. Come on now.
man. But you
Pastor
you just made me
Jackson.
think of all that. I
Pastor
didn't
Jackson.
even you made me think of all that, man.
Mm,
We just pick up the horn and play. But with a
right.
higher level of understanding of what takes place as a person, look at all those beautiful components that go into when you're playing your instrument.
Right. I'm gonna just hold it for now, bro.
Yeah,
I
no
had to charge my phone.
problem.
Right. Exactly. I think you just described it perfectly. And of course, when you're doing it, you don't realize all of that. You're
You
just
made
doing
me think of that.
right, right. You're just doing what you're doing, but you see how coordinated, like playing an instrument is such a coordinated effort,
Yeah,
and even you describing it, it makes me thank God, because if any one of those things are missing, you ain't cooking,
man.
right? So it takes
Hey,
many things to get
right
where you're trying to
quick, right,
get. Yeah.
right quick though. Look at how beautiful music is because who'd you bring up as the one that inspired you about music?
Stevie Wonder.
And he can't even see the music, bro. He can't even see the notes, dog.
He can't see that. I mean, but he can. And Stevie Wonder is my favorite musician. I think it's Stevie Wonder and Earth, Wind and Fire are two of my biggest musical influences. That kind of those are my goalposts.
Yeah,
Like if I can,
yeah,
if I'm getting close to that, I know I'm
yeah.
achieving like musical greatness in a certain sense. You know what I'm saying?
I think what they have in their music is missing today because, and as a musician, well, former musician, I still got
Mm.
musician ear, but I don't know what
Nah,
being a
you you you
saxophone going.
you you always in the
Yeah,
game,
yeah.
brother. You always in the game.
But I could hear the difference in the fact that like those live horns back then, the actual playing together of the music, the actual
Mm.
cooperation, like you could sit down some right now probably and take synthesizer or some type of musical equipment and put all those horns together in a song like by yourself. But when you go listen to a Stevie Wonder song where either he was playing multiple instruments, people were playing the instruments together, and they really were blowing their air through the horns and playing in concert. That's when people try to figure out what's like actually missing from the music, like why an Earth, Wind and Fire song is timeless and you can play it in a commercial in 2023 and people be dancing to it in a commercial and it still like works so easy in advertising. It connects, man.
Connects, yeah. That's a great point, man. And you're absolutely right. And I think it kind of alludes to something we were discussing earlier, which is this mission I'm on, bro. It's to activate and inspire people to stay within their humanity as a superpower. Because when you're listening to Stevie Wonder, you are listening to high-tiered, high-level technical facility and execution, but you're also hearing a man who is a conduit for just so much love, and so much purity. And the same thing with Earth, Wind, and Fire. And how do you achieve that? You achieve that when nobody's looking through your personal relationships, your self-care, your self-love, your self-study. So we're talking about musicians, but there is no greatness, there is no self-development, there is no pouring into others unless or until you've learned the value of pouring into yourself.
No, I just, that's why I just love talking to you, bro, because you've been doing this for me ever since I was a kid, man. And I remember earlier you were talking about, discipline and structure, and I learned those things along with you at St. Aug, man. Like when you were in the band, discipline was such a beautiful life lesson for us as teenage boys, man. Being on time, learning our instruments, practicing together, moving in unison, like going home and having to self-develop or come back and get exposed. You know what I'm saying? If you wasn't doing your reps, like as you call them, doing your practicing.
Yeah, bro. Oh my God, I used to love that. So I know people are coming in and out, man, but St. Aug was, it's funny, right? Like these moments when you're young, they're incremental. They're very quick.
Yeah.
It's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, but they literally shape the man you will become the rest of your life. And I think for young black boys, being in an environment where you had to wear a shirt and tie, where you had to be on time, where you were held accountable,
100%.
And there was joy in the environment too.
Oh my God.
It was a lot of rigor, it was a lot of discipline, but it was a lot of joy too. Just the ability to show up and take pride in something, your appearance, the way you sounded, the way your band showed up, the way your football team showed up, the way you showed up. It does wonders for the self-esteem. It does wonders for confidence. And being in that Marching 100, bro, it literally gave me the blueprint for a trajectory I'm still on in life and I'm still developing. And I'm trying to figure out constantly how to do it better, how to be it more. Like, what do the lessons I learned as a section leader at St. Aug, how do they apply to me at this stage in the game as an entrepreneur going into owning homes, about to have children, etc.? What do those lessons, how do they translate? What would Edward Hampton do? How would he deal with it?
Man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Howard Hampton, who's an OG, I think about a few times a week, man. And so I'll turn it back on you just to make it a two-way conversation. But that band, those lessons, okay, obviously you said you're not necessarily playing the horn anymore, but why would you encourage someone, whatever their path will be in life, to embrace music or embrace certain parts of your past or path rather?
Because man, like you just said, to be honest, it opens up a part of you that you didn't know was there, and the environment is what sparks the awakening. You know what I mean?
I love that.
The things that happened to us as a result of being in the band opened up parts of our creation process that we would need later, that we couldn't self-initiate as teenagers. Our leadership, our cooperation, our practicing, our discipline, our ability to work hard, to goal strive, to
Yeah.
like you said, want to be a section leader, want to be a drum major. You know what I mean? And that's what I would encourage. And I'm still on that path, right? Deliberate self improvement. Like if you listen to the essence of a lot of stuff we're saying, even pathways to freedom and stuff, underneath all of that is what we learned when we were younger in the band, when we met each other, and it was cool because all of us were getting it. That's why you look now and you see dudes that play for the Saints, people that are politicians, people that are running the city, the mayors, the people, like there's so much of the excellence of that institution in a lot of us who achieve great things, but it's because of the collective environment that we were in, and I'm always grateful for that.
Yes, yes, likewise. Likewise, likewise.
So let me say this right quick. I gotta give you flowers because, like you said, you were a section leader. So you were my section leader when I was in the band, and we both played saxophone.
True.
But the way you are now, and people experience you now, how you are, full of life, full of energy, full of this mental, oh my God, diversity, right? That is so intriguing when people meet you. That's what happened to me. But I met you when we were kids. But you showed me a different way of being, man. Like, we went to a Catholic school, and it was, like you said, it was very
Right.
rigorous. We had great cultural, like black boy culture.
Right.
But we also were in an institution that was religiously structured a certain way. But you didn't have to be that religion to go there.
Exactly.
But like I know from you, you said you started to read books and stuff when you were younger that started to expand your mind. And people don't realize, like, you are very acceptable now. Like how you are right now, it's like, oh my God, like, because we're in 2023. 20 years ago, the way that you express yourself was trying to be squashed and changed to a different way. And when I saw you burst free and be like, no, this is how I think, this is how I want to be, this is who I am, I was just always inspired by you as an older guy in the band, my upperclassman, man. And I just want to tell you, I just love you for that, man.
I appreciate you, brother. You know I love you too. You know what I'm saying? And you were always a great, you were somebody great to have around. I always felt supported. You always listened. You always took orders, and you always executed on the mission. And so leadership needs to be in concert with good students, good soldiers. And you've been first of all, I want to say thank you for those flowers. I appreciate it. And then just to reciprocate and say you've always been a good soldier. So you made the job worthwhile.
Yes, sir.
And even having this conversation with you right now, it's a reminder that seeds I planted 20 years ago are still blooming. Seeds I planted in my adolescence are still coming into fruition in ways that I can't even imagine, bro. You happen to be somebody who I've stayed in contact with and connection with, and it is such a pleasure to watch you grow, watch you blossom into a powerful man, a leader, a father, an entrepreneur, and you're continuing to work, bro, in your own way, which is all I ever want people to be inspired to do. Do the work, do some righteous work in your own way. You know what I'm saying? Go plant trees in your own way. You ain't got to play the saxophone. You ain't got to do it the way I do it. Do it the way you do it, and let's cooperate. Let's talk about it.
Man.
Let's work together to alleviate, not even alleviate, to alleviate, but also innovate. You dig? It ain't just all negative. It's like we love each other. We find peace and joy in being able to build with one another constructively. And another thing that St. Aug was great for, which I didn't necessarily have language for at the time, but it's lacking in so many of our interactions, especially online. And we got to remind people that the things that happen online are not necessarily reality. They're tangents, they're fabrications, right? And so there's always this conversation about Black women and Black men and the roles they should play and could play and why they're not playing it. And it's not articulated so much because I don't think it's as popular, but we can clearly see from the music, the media, and entertainment, there is a promotion about the divisiveness of the division with Black men, about Black men. Yeah,
Yeah,
so one of the things I loved about St. Aug is, again, I didn't have this word at the top of the mind. We were just
agree,
doing what we were there to do,
agree.
but St. Aug gave us constant practice and rehearsal in cooperating with other black men.
100%.
And this is not only a beneficial skill to have because it's just a good thing, you're going to need that to strategically team build in order to create change in our world today. And so I love the fact that you're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing, but there's a sense of mutual love and cooperation. You dig?
100%, man. I hope that we can inspire others to be that way. But I think it also goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning when it comes to your path to freedom. I think
Mm,
it's easier to cooperate when you don't feel like anyone can prevent you from attaining the resources that you
mm,
want.
mm.
And when you have,
True.
you know what I mean? Like, I don't have to hate on your
Mm,
grind and like what you're trying to accomplish because I don't feel like there's scarce resources. I don't feel like you're preventing me from having some because I learned how to make some. And I think
mm,
the more that me and you can be an inspiration to show people how to be themselves and learn to create, it's easier to cooperate when you know how to create because whether the person comes or goes or work with you or don't, you're still able to achieve. And so you don't go into it with a who's going to have more, who's going to be able to get, who's going to be able to
mm.
have attitude. You know what I mean?
I love that. I'm just writing that down. It's easy to cooperate when you know how to create. Those are bars, my brother.
Man, I love you,
And
bro. All right, so
we,
let me
it's
ask you
real.
this. Let
Hmm.
me ask you this. I am very curious. I know we both started playing saxophone. I still see you playing saxophone right now. I see you playing flute. Man, what instruments do you play and what do you love about them?
Um, it's three. I'm still getting text messages. um, it's three instruments I primarily play that I'm passionate about, and those three are saxophone, flute, and piano. And as an educator, I can teach multiple instruments. Can you hear me, bro?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. As an educator, I can teach multiple instruments, drums, trumpet, trombone, but the things I'm comfortable with getting on the stage and actually playing and utilizing in my everyday practice are those three instruments, the saxophone, the flute, and the piano. And I love them all for kind of different reasons. So that's why I'm at with it, bro. And I mean, believe me, between those three instruments, um, it's a lot that has to go into those things as you can assume and guess, I guess. So to answer your question, yes, those three.
Man, that's so awesome because I only play saxophone. So,
Hmm.
you know, it's so cool to um hear you describe being able to move past multiple instruments. It's like and earlier we were talking about the process of learning
Hmm.
to be ready to go through the repetitions of the others and learn the
Hmm.
different keystrokes and notations of the others. So awesome, man. So let me ask you this. What's your most memorable and impactful project as an artist? I know you shared the Soul Science
Mm.
Lab. I know you shared the Soul Science Lab and what you're doing. But I want to know what 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 is your most memorable project as an artist, like from the inside out? Like which one was like, oh, like
Yeah.
you were, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, so Soul Science Lab is just the conduit through which all of my creations come at a high level, because we have the relationships that we can negotiate budgets, right? Because you already know as an entrepreneur, when the vision is great and you need buy-in and you need many people involved to execute your vision, you need capital, and I think that's why it's important at a certain level to just understand the synergies and the interconnections between art and commerce, a partnership,
Mm.
or even philanthropy. But I say all that to say the first ever commission we received in 2012 was a show we developed called Soundtrack 63, which was a historical retrospective about the civil rights movement, the March on Washington, and the Emancipation Proclamation.
Wow.
So I'm a musician, I'm an artist, I'm a saxophone player, I'm a composer, but I'm also an educator. I also understand the importance of utilizing the art to facilitate and curate a message deeper and
Mm,
bigger, and to teach history. And it goes back again to my philosophy around Sankofa. You can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. And as someone who is an unofficial historian, I know of our people's greatness, and I have context for our oppression and dysfunction. In other words, when I look outside, I don't just say, "Oh man, we can't get it together. Black men can't cooperate. What's up with these sisters?" I understand. I understand to an extent why we are the way we are, and that this is not our default.
mm,
This is not innately who we are,
wow.
right? Somebody has obstructed our path. So I'm always thinking in terms of like, yo, how can I get us back to greatness? How can I inspire us to be more of ourselves? Because as long as we could do that, we could be as great as we were meant to be. And so Soundtrack 63 was the first thing I put out into the world that I got to channel the energy,
Mm,
the consciousness, the spirit of my ancestors in a powerful way in a contemporary audience that they would grasp to let me know, oh, I'm cooking now, right? And I'm doing it now. Like that thing I came here to do, I'm actually doing it. And every time we've done this show, we've sold out, and
mm,
we've done it maybe 20 to 25
wow.
times over the years. We
Yeah.
actually did it in New Orleans at the CAC in 2017.
Wow.
We did it 2016. We did it at the Apollo Theater in 2018. And every time we've done this show, it's sold out. And I
Wow.
think, in addition to like the music making me feel a certain the show, because
Yeah.
it's a theatrical show,
Yeah.
the response I get from people coming up to me crying, people coming up to me wanting to have conversations and be inspired to do more and be more and ask me, what can we do? How do
Yeah.
we continue this work? I was like, this is like, praise God, this is what I came to this planet to do. And so
Man.
that is the metric. That's kind of like, that's the marker
Yeah.
of everything going forward. It has
Yes,
to
man.
be like that or
Yeah.
greater and better.
Man, I love it. Oh man, I love it. Just the way you described being able to, I'm doing what I came here to
I'm do-
do.
Listen, bro, I'm doing what I came here to do. And listen, not many people feel that, unfortunately, and it's a
Okay,
travesty.
we could talk about it, man.
Not many people feel that.
I feel no, for real. I was in Las Vegas in 2019, and I was speaking for the 100 Black Men of America
Mm,
because they'd incorporated my book into a financial literacy program that they were
mm,
doing nationwide. They were buying over 1,000 of my books and distributing them to the chapters across the country. Then, of their own, they created a competition using my book to where groups of kids would have to create a business, submit a business plan, and then the top 3 kid
mm,
groups from across the
mm.
country met in Las Vegas for a final competition. And so they invited me to come be the moderator of the competition. And there were like 7 judges down there, like lawyers, attorneys, CEOs, like they're judging because they're part of the organization, the kids' presentations. And they're giving away a scholarship and partner with State Farm as a part of whoever wins the
Mm,
competition for the
mm.
kids. And I'm at lunch break, sitting down, eating my food in, I want to say it was the Bellagio, maybe, hotel in Las Vegas. And the kid came up to me and asked for me to autograph his book, who had won the competition. And I was like, sure. Like I autographed his book. I stood up and we took a picture. And he was like, "This is the author of my favorite book,
Wow.
bro." I was like,
Damn. That's heavy, brother.
what I can say is, that's when I knew I was doing what I came here to do.
Doing
It's
I love that, bro. I love that. Yo, that story is so inspiring, and first of all, again, man, I'm proud of you, bro. I'm proud of you. Absolutely amazing for what you're doing in the community, and you're doing it in your own way that speaks to your passion.
I appreciate it.
And to be inspiring another
That's
generation. So
what I
imagine,
mean.
imagine. what he's gonna do, and then who he'll inspire as a result of you being that catalyst.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like when you talk about that feeling, it was, and I hope I'm describing that right. I wasn't excited that the dude was like, this is my favorite book, and this is the author. I was excited because I remember when I was first writing it that I wasn't an author. I didn't graduate. I graduated a business degree. I wasn't a writer, and I didn't write a book because I could write and I needed to write a novel. I wrote the book because I wanted to share how you're sharing with your music, what I had learned, and I wanted to share with the world. I wanted to share the financial education that I had discovered with other people.
Bro, you getting me so amped, bro. You getting me so, and imagine that the same way you're inspiring me, because I know we had a conversation yesterday, off platform, how we inspire each other, bro, and what that will lead to. And so when you sharing this story, it's amazing. Like two things, like you've inspired me to you're giving me ideas now about things I want to implement, I want to try out, I want to experiment with. But imagine 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you run into that same kid, and he's telling you about something he's done or he's doing that makes you go, God damn.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You're inspiring me now to take a course of action, and to me, that's to go back to your point about it's no lack, it's only abundance. Yeah. So if I can give you flowers, you could turn around and be like, hold on, and give them right back. And then and we could live life and live love that way, bro. And that's absolutely inspiring, man.
I just appreciate
super proud of you, bro.
I just appreciate you, man, because I just want to really tap into your point of that feeling of I came here to do what I came to do, and it be really touching souls. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what we came here to do. We came to touch other people's souls with our work and what we were trying to accomplish. You know what I mean? That's like what really inside of me came out. I tried to write the book I wish I could have read. You know how you wish that we could have more ancestral history from the beginning to be able to live a more authentic life from the beginning? I wish, like you were talking about, the blend between art and commerce, I wish that the understanding of financial education was given so early on that you can work with it from an early age before you make the missteps of misinformation. And so seeing those kids holding that book, when he said, this is my favorite book, I was like, I hope so, because it's of what I put in there for you, what I put in there for you, that now you can have a conversation with your friends about, to where y'all can do what I wanted it to do. You can start from the beginning with the right financial education, and that be a generational thing. And then to your point about cooperation over competition, now y'all can start businesses together. Now y'all can get property together. Now you can understand taxes together at a young age, because you knew when you were young, so you moved differently, and because you didn't have to do a cash grab or hit a lick or do something violent or criminal or illegal. Now there's cooperation instead of that competition, and empowerment, man.
Bro, empowerment and starting out the gate. This is your default, and to me, that's the goal. There's so many things our parents made our defaults, and of course there was still a long way to go. And so I just think that's the important thing about time. It's about realizing that we're in a relay race.
Yeah,
we're in a race where you have to hand off the baton. Yeah. Because you can't run forever, and you can't run the whole race by yourself. Yeah. So it ain't even about trying to do that. It's about, now that I got the baton, how far can I run this thing, so that the person in front of me can start off at an advantage and run even further. And to me, that's what you're describing, and that's the work we've been doing.
Well, I want our work to be the baton. You know what I mean? Because you told me yesterday, like you said, off platform conversation, but we were talking about some of the books that you read when you were younger. I didn't have exposure to some of those books, right? Even though we had the library and stuff, we didn't have the World Wide Web like this. We had TikTok, Instagram, all the stuff, you know what I mean?
I'm about to say, I ain't get them books from the library anyway.
I'm just saying, I know you ain't get them. What I'm saying is, I'm trying to articulate the idea that we are trying to create some. So when you talked about books, it made me realize that was the reason why I even wrote a book in the first place. I was like, because my original idea was how I wanted to share more of what I was learning. And I'm thinking about videos, I'm thinking about CDs, all like how can you audio recordings? But when I remembered, all of those things were destructible to me, right? The video can be deleted, taken down, so on and so forth. But when I thought about books, there are books from thousands of years ago, even in Library of Congress and so on and so forth. There's books from thousands of years ago. So when you talk about passing the baton or what our parents had access to that we didn't have access to, sometimes I realized that it wasn't our parents' fault. Because think about it, my mom, she was still alive when Malcolm got killed. But that's my mom, right? So when people think about Malcolm X, it's like it's so long ago. It's not like my direct, like one generation ahead of me was alive when he died. And then my grandma was born in like 1925. Right, so how could my grandma have given it to my mother to give it to me when in the 80s they were still keeping education for people, and then our parents' generation was like the first ones that got to go to college.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's not their fault. So like you said, now we got the baton, we have access to all this stuff. It's how can I give you some more to run your race? And so I wanted to write a book because I felt like books was indestructible. That's what made me become a writer. Trying to make something that could be passed on to where you could be in your house and there be a copy in someone's house, because financial education books that I learned from were not like in my friend's house and they weren't in my house, but I discovered them as I got older. So I wanted to have something in our houses that could be shared and passed along, and that's what made me be a writer, man. That's what made me write it.
I love that so much, and you're inspiring me and motivating me to kind of do something I'm already doing, which is make sure I'm sharing what I'm learning. And committing to the rigor of doing that, because one, it does two things. It shares the information, obviously, but it also inwardly reinforces the lessons I'm trying to implement in my life, which are very important. So I appreciate that, brother, man. I gotta let you know, I only got about 5 more minutes.
Let's do it.
Yeah, about 5 more minutes, because it's
I'm happy that
it's a work day.
I'm happy that you're here. So let's do this. Let's spend those last 5 minutes with you sharing what you want to share as like your final thoughts that you want people to take away from this.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's simple. I mean, we've said so much. I feel like I don't need to add so much more, but I probably will. I think I've been writing notes this whole talk. It's easy to cooperate when you know how to create. I'm doing what I came here to do. You know what I'm saying? Cooperation over competition. Share what you're learning, but first go and learn something. And I think lastly, I want to go back to the top of the conversation about pathways to freedom, because I always say I always say I'm a free black man. Back in the day during slavery, you had free black people. They called them free people of color, right? No matter what was happening in the world, no matter how severe slavery was, you always had free people of color. You always had free black people. So I'm a free black person. So are you. And it's about developing tools and encouraging people to be free. Nobody can enslave you. Nobody can enslave you. And knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave, right? Knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave. So empower yourself and constantly, every day, create habits. Habituate yourself on taking the power back. Anytime you begin to feel powerless, say you are, because as long as you're breathing, as long as you got a mind and a spirit, you can fight back, you could be free, and you can make a better way out of the tools that have been given to you. And we need to have more faith and give that more credence than we do the other thoughts and the other ideas. And as long as we do that, we can continue to, be a mighty people and make progress, and the future will get better.
Man, I just appreciate you, man.
Regardless of what's happening right now, the future will get better if we lock in.
I just appreciate you. So how can people connect with you and follow you? And then I'm going to let you go, my brother. Thank you for being here.
Yes, sir. So, of course, if they're on your platform and they're watching, they can just follow me. Go ahead and follow right now. Don't think about it. Don't wonder about it. Don't do it later. Go ahead and follow me right now. The next thing you could do is look up my music, Asante Amin, on all streaming platforms. After that, you should follow Soul Science Lab. That is the multimedia company I founded with my brother Chin Lo. We're doing amazing things. Musical coming to the Apollo Theater in February. We're touring a show called Make a Joyful Noise right now that was commissioned by Carnegie Hall. We also have music curriculums that we're licensing. We have I have my own university. It's a virtual university you could sign up for and get lessons on how to write songs, music